And she dialed the wrong number. No one's ever seen before.
As you know, my area of expertise is the area of molecular reorganization. Now, as a result of my years of experimentation with the realignment of atomic particles, I have not only been able to recreate a substance within a substance, I have been able to decreate any substance via molecular reorganization. Do you know what the four basic principles of physics are?
Dairy, meat, fruits and vegetables, and grain.
Now, those are the four food groups.
Can you believe that loser doctor's gonna flunking us all on that test? What a jerk.
Yeah. Oh, but anybody that wears his pants as high as he does, he's gotta be a little bit off.
A little off? I think it's a lot off.
Come on, you guys, I think you're being a little too hard.
You know, we really shouldn't be doing this in school. I mean, it's so risky.
Yeah, that's what makes it more fun.
You're such a daredevil, Jack.
Well, Vicky, to get an A, all you have to do is study hard and do your homework. Physics.
Forget the physics. Let's talk physical.
Hello, this is Caitlin O'Haney, the final girl from He Knows You're Alone, and you're listening to Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to the Hysteria Continues, and this is episode 215. And this time, well, it's quite apt. This is a podcast because you can't see us. So could we be invisible? Who knows? Maybe we are. What would you do, Nathan, if you were invisible for a day?
If I was invisible for a day, I would, I don't know what I'd do. Something that would get me a lot of money. I don't know if I'd rob anybody, though. I think that would be kind of wrong. But maybe I could, like, scare people. How about that? Like a ghost.
Oh, would you be tempted to sort of rip off ladies' blouses?
No, I'm not that tempted for that. Although it's amazing to me how many women in this movie decide to wear button-up shirts.
Indeed.
They're aplenty.
Yes. Well, who else? Erik, what would you do? Because I know you've just been chowing down on a sausage. So would you be tempted to stick a sub in someone's mouth?
Possibly. My problem with invisibility, though, is that do your clothes go invisible? Because if I'm running around the streets of Dublin invisible, I'll have to be nude and it'll be very, very cold.
Well, especially if it wears off suddenly, which it tends to do in this movie, doesn't it? Which of course, we are covering The Invisible Maniac from 1990. And you may be shocked to hear that this is a Nathan pick. And if you're not, well, if you are shocked to hear, then you obviously haven't listened to many episodes. But
it is shocking, isn't it? That I would pick something this classy?
Yeah, well, it remains to be seen. Well, Joseph, what would you do if you were, I was going to say naked for a day, but invisible and perhaps naked for a day?
I've been invisible all my life, so nothing new.
Oh.
No, actually, if I were invisible for one day, I would probably enact retribution on people who deserve it.
Like Toya.
Hey, possibly.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll hurt her ears really bad with a Susie album.
That's cruel.
215 episodes and still the same old shtick, which is why you love us, of course. So, what would I do if I was invisible for the day? Well, I don't know.
Who would you do if you were invisible for a day?
Well, I wouldn't go around doing what the Invisible Maniac does in this movie, I don't think. Put it that way. But I'll have to have a think on that one. So, but yes, we are covering The Invisible Maniac from 1990, as I've already said. A Nathan pick, so it remains to be seen what the rest of us thought about that. Although I did review this back on Hysteria Lives back in the day. So, again, I'll see if, it remains to be seen whether or not I still have the same opinion all these years later. So, but before we get on to The Invisible Maniac, let's talk about what we've been watching recently. So, Nathan, as it's your pick, anything you'd like to tell us about?
Honestly, I don't think I've seen anything new. Crazy, isn't it? I've been really busy with work and everything, so I haven't really had a chance since our last podcast.
Well, that's okay, because you're giving us enough quality entertainment with your main pick So I think that's a fair trade-off, isn't it?
Yes, I have been studying this main pick. And I also watched our Patreon pick, which we will get to later today.
The invisible main pick.
Invisible, yes.
Okay, well, thank you, Nathan, for, that you're invisible.
My invisible recently seen?
Yes. Yeah. So, Erik, have you actually seen anything?
I did. No, well, it's kind of in a roundabout way. I've been getting into this hot new group that I've bought a couple of records of. You may have heard of them. They're brand new. They're called the Rolling Stones. And a lot of their albums have been recently reissued on vinyl. So I picked up 2 of them because I'd never owned a Rolling Stones record. And there's a song on one album called Too Much Blood, which was a single from 1984. And I checked out the video on YouTube. And mainly because there's a rap spoken word section in the middle where Mick Jagger talks about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I checked out the video and it's quite funny. There's apparently it was banned by MTV. It's directed by Julian Temple, and it has scenes including a severed head in a fridge, blood coming out of the taps, and there's a great scene where Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood are both wielding chainsaws whilst menacing Mick Jagger as he tries to lip sync the song. It's great fun. Actually, Jagger in the video, and I'm not sure if he has any special effects makeup on, but he looks like the semi-transformed Jeff Goldblum from The Fly before he gets outrageously disgusting. Sort of that halfway point, and I was thinking, is Mick supposed to look a bit odd, or is it just that he was, he must have been only about in his 40s or 50s at the time. But it's a fun video, a great song actually as well. Not sure if any of you guys are Rolling Stones fans. Probably not you, Justin, because they don't wear black lipstick.
Well, they did that fantastic song, didn't they? Paint It Black.
Yes. Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's one of the original goth songs. Well, arguably. So I do like a little bit of Rolling Stones. Not their latest stuff, I must admit, but kind of sort of their up to late 60s, early 70s stuff, I don't mind. So I do own a couple of albums, I must admit.
There you go. So we finally find common ground in the musical arena.
I know. A big hug. Let me send you a heart.
The only other things I've been watching, though, apart from that, were we actually have a few projects in the pipeline that we can't talk about. Maybe some Blu-ray related content. Mm-hmm. So I've been swashing up on them. But that's all.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Joseph, how about you?
Well, the only thing new or semi-new that I watched this week was Countdown from last year, which is this kind of watered down PG-13 riff on the Final Destination concept. This one follows Elizabeth Lail from You, the first season of You. She's this like nurse who downloads this app called Countdown, which essentially tells you the precise moment in which you'll die, a countdown, if you will. So this one is far from what I would label must-see, but it sort of works in that kind of bland, vanilla PG-13 sort of way, with a lot of really ridiculous plot turns. There's characters introduced for no other reason than to give the lead person like an exposition partner. And I admit I laughed out loud at the very notion that death has its own programming language that you can hack into. I mean, it's really dumb, but I was never bored watching this. And I know this got kind of eviscerated by the critics, but I enjoyed it. It's not good, but I had fun with it. So any of you guys seen this one?
No, but I want to. I remember, I think it got a brief theatrical release over here at the start of the year.
It came and went here like no one's business.
Yeah. No, it's the kind of thing, it sounds kind of similar to things like, what are they called? What are those films called, Nathan, that we were discussing on Messenger about in relation to Countdown? Wish Upon and...
Yeah, I don't remember what we called them.
No. There's an actual title of a movie I'm trying to think of where they Truth or Dare. That's the one.
Yes.
That type of movie where there's kind of a verse going around, and it's, as Joseph was saying, kind of PG-13-ish. But some of them can be quite edgy. I think they're not totally kiddish. Yeah, I enjoy them. Sorry.
Yeah, this one tries to go for a little scares here and there, and they don't necessarily work. But I can see they were trying at least. Yeah, it's not terrible like everyone would make you think. I would recommend watching it at least once.
I have seen it. I saw it maybe 4 or 5 months ago, maybe when it came out. I don't remember a massive amount about it, but I do remember kind of enjoying it as a kind of one-time watch type thing. And I actually downloaded the app tells you when you're going to die. Mm-hmm.
What did it say?
Well, it said I had something like 4 years, and I looked up, and some people had got like 40 minutes and things like that, which I thought was a bit. But it kind of reminded me. I don't know if I ever mentioned this, told this story before. It was not really a story, but it kind of reminded me of when my mother used to have a pack of tarot cards, and I'm not a believer in that mumbo jumbo, but I used to read, in inverted commas, tarot, my younger brother and sister's tarot, their future, and so I'd always have the death card under the table, and so I would always say they were going to die tomorrow. They never did.
So evil.
Well,
They're
I know,
pure evil.
but they never did. But they always fell for it. So until my mother took the pack of tarot cards away from me because I was scaring my siblings. So
Sound like a little terror.
Well,
yeah, you sound like you were the Inga.
well,
Yeah.
see, that would have made a good horror movie, wouldn't it? So have they even done a tarot horror movie? Have they? They've done a Ouija board. They're the Ouija board movies, but they've not done a tarot card one. I don't think. I know they've done ones with tarot in it, like the original Frightmare. But
It'll come out
a tarot story.
You've got a tarot story.
Yeah.
Oh.
When I worked at Movie Gallery when I was a teenager, it was a wonderful video store, but that's beside the point. A guy came in one day and he just handed me something, and he's like, "Do me a favor, throw these away." And I was like, okay. So I looked down and they were tarot cards. And I was like, this seems like a scary movie. Like he passed it on to me. So you know what I did? I threw them away without even looking at them. I'm like, I'm not going to be one of those people in the movies that gets involved with death or whatever's going on.
But you were cursed, Nathan. You were cursed with bad movie taste.
Something wrong, Eric. How dare you?
I think we should
Eric.
I tell you,
apologize.
I reckon we
Eric,
should do
you're terrible.
Oh, terrible. Oh, dear.
Grown.
Oh, if only I had my soundboard up. But we should do maybe a Patreon, one of our Algonquin roundtables on our supernatural experiences.
I've had none.
I haven't had any either.
Haven't you?
No. I mean, except for the tarot card, which wasn't supernatural. I think it was just some guy who, like his significant other was probably getting on his nerves with the cards and he just wanted them gone.
Maybe he'd murdered a tarot reader. And
maybe so, but there was no blood on the cards.
Well, he might have, well, I don't know.
I'll tell you what, if I ever do tarot, I just hope I never get the happy squirrel card.
The what?
Eric.
Yeah.
Is your favorite actor an urban legend, Tara Reid?
Oh, dear.
Yeah. We reached for that one.
Quality entertainment.
That got more gongs than that Chinese dancing robot that caught on fire.
That joke is going to be a card act to follow.
Eric topped Joseph there.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Like figuratively.
I have never topped Joseph.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've got lots of good supernatural stories I can tell you, but we'll save that for another time. So maybe a spooky Halloween one. So you better have something. You better sort of. Well, Eric, I think you've been enjoying lots of spirits recently. So
I have been enjoying. I've had an encounter with spirits recently. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm turning into a regular Shirley Ghostman.
Eric sounded like he was going to die on the last episode.
I felt like I was.
It's like, the only thing I've been watching this week was, my God, dude, you're going to die.
I didn't download that countdown app.
Well, yeah, it's probably a good job, isn't it? But so yes, we've had that kind of. We talked about the Freaky Friday thing, didn't we? We were swapping lives.
Yeah, I haven't had any booze since, or spirit. I haven't had any encounters with spirits since.
Okay. Right. Okay. Well, so I'm taking that's a no, Joseph. Then, isn't it? There's nothing else.
Nope, that's it.
No. Okay. I've caught up with a few things. One thing, a new film I heard some good things about is a film called Relic, not The Relic, which is like the late 90s monster or mid 90s monster movie. This is a sort of brand new Australian sort of movie, and I'm quite a fan of Australian horror movies over the years because you've had some great ones. they're going back to the Peter Weir stuff, like The Last Wave, which isn't really a horror movie, but it's kind of a similar thing. But all the all those kind of late 80s slasher rip-offs, Picnic at Hanging Rock, the
Day After Halloween.
Well, maybe not that one. I was thinking, which is the one with not the Day of the Animals, the one.
Lost Weekend.
Lost Weekend.
Houseboat Horror.
Houseboat Horror. Well, maybe I'm off, but no, I'm thinking more about
Allendale.
I'm thinking about more like along the lines of Lake Mungo. So this is kind of it's got I wouldn't say it's got a similar feel to Lake Mungo. It's very much more like cut from the same cloth as Hereditary. So it's got very much got that kind of feeling to it. And the basic story is this old woman who has dementia, or her daughter and her granddaughter think she's got dementia, and she goes missing, and they got to look for her, and then she sort of turns up in her house, but there's also something else in the house. And it's so that's kind of the very basic plot without really giving anything else away, because that's pretty much established from the beginning. And so it's done in that kind of slightly Hereditary feel, where everything feels slightly off kilter, but not as batshit crazy as Hereditary gets, perhaps. Quite creepy. It's not wholly successful, but it's if you're kind of a fan, or you've got a liking for that kind of Hereditary, Midsummer, those kind of movies, but more of a kind of a typical or atypical haunted house kind of movie, then you could do worse. It might be worth a look. So I quite enjoyed it. It's quite creepy and got some scary bits to it. And it, but if you're not a fan of ambiguous endings, then maybe give it a wide berth. But if you don't mind those, then that might be worth a look. Any of you guys seen it or heard of it?
No.
Someone recommended that to me this morning. I don't remember who, or I name dropped them, but they actually said it was really good. So I'm going to check that out.
Cool. Excellent. And the only thing I was going to mention, we had one of our horror double bills. I've got I've got a couple of new Blu-rays through the post, and one of them is the My Bloody Valentine Scream Factory limited edition, or not, maybe it's not even limited edition, but the uncut, sort of cleaned up version Blu-ray from Scream Factory, which I was watching bits of last night, and also another one which we're going to be my pick at the end of the evening. But we had some friends around, and we had a double bill. First one was Stage Fright, which we've talked about, the Italian sort of Michele Soavi slasher giallo mashup from 1987. But also caught up with a film that I remember really enjoying when I saw it at cinema, and I've seen it a few times on Blu-ray, was Orphan, which was the one with the kind of psychotic little girl, not giving it all away, but who gets adopted and turns out to be not so sweet. That was quite good fun as well. So we're able to introduce
I don't know. I think she was just a little misunderstood, honestly.
Hey, she makes Inga look like Mother Teresa.
She does, rather.
Well, I mean, come on. Like the kids she goes after in the school, they were a bully. I mean, what do you expect?
Well, that was true, but she did go over the top a little bit, didn't she?
That's a great double bill.
Well, I've got the next double bill is My Bloody Valentine and Zombie Holocaust.
Yay.
So, yeah.
Whoa.
Early 80s double bill. Well, I think it's on the beginning of Stage Fright, the Blu-ray I've got of it had the trailer for Zombie Holocaust, and they said after watching that, they were hooked and wanted to see that next. So anyway, so welcome to my life. So yes, that's all I've been watching. I did watch that. I think I mentioned that Reality Z, or that Brazilian not rip off, a remake of Dead Set, the Big Brother, the zombie apocalypse outside the Big Brother house, the Brazilian one. And I'm kind of, sometimes you're watching something just because you started watching it and you're just thinking, this is really rubbish, but I just kind of want to finish it. So it's kind of like that, really. It's not very funny and it's not very good, really. It's very good, big budget. It looks amazing. They've thrown loads of money at it, and the Rio de Janeiro on fire, and like they've got these amazing sweeping shots of Rio de Janeiro, kind of like bits exploding and aircraft crashing and stuff like that. It looks like some like massive big budget Hollywood movie, but it's unfortunately wasted on a rather poor zombie thing, which I'm going to rather played out. But anyway, so we watch it so you don't have to, perhaps. Talking of which...
There is just one other thing I just want to ask you guys. Did anyone watch the Ju-on TV series or whatever it's called? That's on Netflix?
Not yet. I
didn't even know there was... Yeah, I've never even heard of it.
It mightn't be on Netflix in the States. I don't know. It's from Japan. So I was just curious to know. I think it's like 10 half-hour episodes or something. So I'm curious to see what it's like.
I've got it on my Spanish Netflix. It's on there, and I've seen it. I did read a review in the paper which said it wasn't fantastic because it was made by somebody who's not really a horror director and maybe didn't quite get the memo. But I don't know. So I might give that a whirl after. So, okay. Well, as I was saying, as films that we watch so you don't have to, we're going to our the main pick.
Summer school can be deadly, especially when the nerdy new physics professor is a voyeur with a vengeance who's making himself temporarily invisible and making the student body permanently disappear. Not that his classroom full of oversexed underachievers don't deserve a dose of discipline. Ever since his arrival, they've been neglecting their physics and taunting him with their physiques, unaware that he's actually a mad scientist who was locked away for murdering several colleagues only to escape in order to continue work on a serum that makes him invisible. Now, however, their teasing has pushed him over the edge, and now he's getting even. Taunts turn to terror as clothes and class attendance begin to drop off, with each student fighting a creatively grisly but ultimately losing battle with an unseeable assailant. Finally, the sole survivor injects himself with the serum to teach the professor a lesson. Their invisible duel to the death is a shocker. You've got to not see to believe. That was the back of the VHS box.
Sorry, Nathan, but that is complete bullshit. All of it. It's so wrong. Go ahead.
It's such a fun description, though.
It is. Go ahead.
Okay, so obviously, of course, I picked this movie. So I love The Invisible Maniac. I think it's utterly ridiculous, completely absurd. I mean, from the opening scene where, the psychologist is trying to tell the mother how, gentle she needs to be with her son. And then in the very next scene, she's slapping him and telling him how much she hates him. So, and calling him a pervert. She's kind of like the mom in Pieces. You guys see the parallels there?
I did.
Yeah. So she's kind of like that mom, except he doesn't kill her, which it's unfortunate because I would have probably enjoyed that. But anyway, so he grows up to be he's got a lot of hang-ups about sex, and he is desperate to create the serum to make him invisible. So he gathers all these world-renowned scientists together and is going to show them that he could become invisible, which I don't understand why he didn't test it on himself alone before actually doing this whole, gathering thing, because it doesn't work. So they all laugh at him, and then he kills a bunch of them all at once, which it's really hysterical because it's just, these are supposed to be these world-renowned scientists, but they act just as immature as the students in his class later.
What?
So
no, sorry, Nathan, just to interject while I think about it. When I was watching that, I thought exactly the same thing would happen if we ever did a live Hysteria Continues show and Erik did his joke of the week. But it would be the opposite. People wouldn't be laughing, and he would bum rush off the stage and attack the audience.
That would never happen. Everyone would be in fits of laughter.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Nathan.
Well, so we flash forward. He's escaped from a mental asylum. Now he's headed his way to a school where he magically gets a job and he is the wonderful alias Dr. Smith. So he's introduced by the principal, Carmelita Cello, who is quite the character. I think that she's oversexed, like a lot of the girls in this movie. And so, of course, he tries to teach these kids, and they're all mean to him. I also found it very funny that that all the cheerleaders happen to be in summer school, because among summer school, they also just go to the gym randomly and do cheers because it's kind of intercut with that. But the movie, of course, it kicks into gear in the last, 30 minutes or so, because he locks the doors of the school and proceeds to kill off anybody inside the school. And that's a lot of fun. I think it's a fun little slasher-esque kind of thing. But yeah, I just, any of the invisible scenes are hysterical, like when they're trying to fight him and stuff. I mean, it's just a guy standing there swinging fists towards the camera. And almost all the girls get their tops ripped off before he kills them, or at least showing some kind of nudity in some way. I thought it was interesting that we don't, and spoiler alert, we don't really get a final girl in this one at all. It's kind of a final guy, but he's not a very likable hero, so you don't really care if he lives or not. But the one who I thought was going to be the final girl has probably the best death scene, where her face literally gets jumped on. So yeah, there's a ton for me to say about it, but I am very interested to hear all your guys' opinions. So let's start with Joseph.
Yeah, Invisible Maniac. You know, it felt like one of those porn parodies without the hardcore elements. And let's just say I don't watch porn for the plot. The murders here are of the kind of point a camera at an actor who's pretending that they're being strangled. And there's not a lot of variety otherwise. I can't say I enjoyed Invisible Maniac, but many of the parts comprising the sum are quite hilarious. For instance, how in the world did Dornwinkle get this job teaching at a high school? I mean, his escape is obviously front page news, and even in the unlikely event someone or anyone wouldn't recognize him, I mean, he's still acting really shifty, and he's all sweaty and like twitchy. Who would let this obvious creep around their children? And I like how everyone seems to spend the bulk of the movie in the bathroom. I mean, like, this is the epicenter for overheard conversations and gossip. And as the movie chugged along, I just found myself laughing uncontrollably at how unbelievably juvenile the film is. I mean, characters kind of run around like they're in this Benny Hill sketch. And, you know, rather than generate any tension whatsoever, the film is perfectly content with, you know, just bombastically derobing women any chance it gets. And, you know, I admit I kind of liked that sort of thing when I was 14, but not so much now. I did love the principal character, who seems to be about 10 years younger than her students. And she exists in this film only to let the nearest man just kind of motorboat her breasts. I mean, the movie's just too silly to leave any lasting impression, although maybe it did because I'm laughing about it. But I'll just go on to say I was never bored watching it. I wouldn't recommend it as a slasher film at all. But if you like those kind of stupid, just kind of, you know, USA Up All Night Summer kind of horror thriller, cheapo sexploitationers, I'd say go for the Invisible Maniac. Yeah, I had some fun with it, I guess.
All right, I'll take that. What about you, Justin?
Yeah, I'd read back my review and I gave it 2.5 stars, kind of middling, and I sort of said it for what it was quite fun, and I still stand by it. I mean, it's not going to win any awards for anything really, but if you're in the right frame of mind, and I think if you're slightly intoxicated, then you might find this quite funny. As a slasher movie, it's kind of mixes all the different things. It's a kind of parody of those, well, kind of the Invisible Man, obviously, like Claude Rains and all those movies, and also like the Mad Professor. All those kind of things are kind of parodying the 1930s movies through the 1950s Mad Professor, but with the added sort of sexploitation of the late 80s, early 90s kind of straight to video. Although this, I think, did actually get a cinema release, which boggles the mind, but it did. So, I mean, the thing I like about what I like about this movie to some degree is that it feels. I think maybe Joseph mentioned Benny Hill, but it has that feeling where it feels like people actually had fun making it. So it's not mean spirited. That it seems like everyone is in on the joke. So it's not not mean spirited. It's the women don't feel, it doesn't feel like women being particularly exploited, as far as they kind of seem like they're quite in on the joke as well. I mean, that your mileage may vary with that, depending on what you think about the film. But so it's I think it could have been. I don't know if it couldn't have been. I couldn't have really done it seriously. I don't think it would have. I don't think that would have worked. And I don't. If they made it any sillier, it just wouldn't have worked either. So it's not wholly successful. But I for that kind of slightly mindless, but having fun sort of late 80s, early 90s sort of getting beers with friends when you're a 14-year-old boy kind of movie, then it's you could do a lot worse. So. But there are bits in it that made me laugh, all this. There's when he goes nutsoid when his serum doesn't work, and somebody who's clearly American says, "I came all the way from Belgium for this," and they're all like pointing and laughing at him. It's things like that kind of made me gave me a titter. But as far for me, it's the humor is a bit too broad. It's not really my kind of humor. But I think if you're in the right frame of mind and you've got the right reference points, then you probably I think quite a few people would enjoy this. But like Joseph said, it's not really a slasher movie as such. Although I reviewed it on Hysteria Lives, and it's got enough in there for us to be talking about it. But if you're looking for thrills, it's you look elsewhere. But if you're looking for kind of dumb laughs and bras flying off like Barbara Windsor, then meets the Poltergeist, then go for it by all means. So it's my tuppence.
Very cool, very cool. What about you, Erik?
Yeah, well, I love invisibility movies. I mean, I grew up watching the 70s shows, The Gemini Man, if you remember that one, and then The Invisible Man as well with David McCallum, and I used to love them. And then more recently, Hollow Man and this year's Invisible Man, which I thought was outstanding, really, to be honest. So I love a good old invisibility story. But this is my first time watching Invisible Maniac. I hadn't seen it, and when you guys described it to me, I was like, oh dear, this is definitely not going to be my cup of tea. But you'll be pleasantly surprised, Nathan, to hear that. I mean, along with Joseph and Justin, I thought the film was perfectly fine. I wouldn't call it a classic by any means, but it did surprise me in a number of ways. First of all, as I said, I built it up in my head as being kind of a trauma-like movie with sort of gross out humor and completely devoid of plot and character or anything like that. And although this isn't Shakespeare by any means, I mean, it does have some structure, and the humor actually works in places for me. I mean, I found myself laughing at times at the film. It doesn't feel forced, and I thought it was. I mean, the first half, I was relatively engaged. I thought, this is pretty watchable. But it was delivering far more than I expected. But it's the second half where I thought the film really picked up, where the actual invisibility starts to happen. And as you said, I love the lo-fi effects of people fighting an invisible entity. I thought they were hilarious. I just love the scene where the guy is being force-fed the baguette, which is accompanied by some Invisible Maniac style Freddy-like quipping, where he says things like, "Don't talk with your mouth full," and "lunchtime." The fight on the rooftop was great. The jock in his tennis gear having fisticuffs with the invisible force, and he's really getting into it. He's really giving it his all, trying and convince us that he's fighting his invisible foe. I love the climactic fight at the end between not one but two invisible men. So the camera is just sort of scanning around this room, and we don't see anything. We just hear fisticuffs and grunting and that type of thing. I thought that was quite clever, and sort of, as Justin was saying, like the filmmakers feel like they're having fun and they're in on the joke, and they know that this is ridiculous. They're not trying to cover anything up. I thought the end bit with the newsreader was fun as well. And when I went to watch the film back the second time, I noticed that her blouse was particularly big, as if it was rigged up for some kind of gag that was about to come, because it's about 15 sizes too big for her. I suppose the title character, he's kind of very pantomimey in the film. I can't remember the actor's name, but he certainly overplays it. But I think it kind of suits the tone of the film. But I mean, it's the invisibility stuff that really shines for me. And I did love the start where it's kind of poking fun at horror films that have a prologue set in the past, and then it cuts to 20 years later. Because this one it starts off with the opening bit with his mum straight out of pieces, as you said, and then it cuts to 20 years later. Then we get 6 months later, and then 2 weeks later, and it keeps going on and on. I think we get 4 different time zones in that initial prologue before we meet the professor in the college. I also love the bit where he asks the girl in the class what the 4 principles of physics are, and her answer is dairy, meat, fruit and veg, and grain. which I always assumed were the 4 principles of physics, but they're not. Apparently, they're food groups. I do like I thought that the funniest moment for me was the big prank that the students pull. I mean, the suspense is building, and you think, oh, what are they up to? What are they going to do? Are they going to pour a bucket of pig's blood over the teacher's head? But no. Just at 10:30 or whatever the time is, they all simultaneously drop a book on the ground to create one sort of loudish sudden noise, and that's their prank. I thought that was kind of funny. So yeah, it delivered a lot more than I was expecting. You said to me, Nathan, that you didn't think I was going to like the film, and that kind of helped, I suppose, that my expectations were quite low. So I was pleasantly surprised to find that it wasn't like a trauma movie. It wasn't going for sort of gross out humor. It's I suppose it's Porky's-ish, but not quite going to those extremes either. I thought the humor was more on the silly side than on the gross out side. I thought the film was sometimes quite clever, and the sort of the more crude and things and the nudity in that didn't dominate the film in the way I was expecting it was going to, which is a compliment. So yeah, I thought it was a really watchable film. I mean, as the guy said, it's not one I'd rush out to buy again or watch again. But for what it was, I was entertained, and certainly one of your better picks. Well done.
Oh, thank you. One of my better picks.
Yes,
I like that. I will say I love the acting of the janitor character when he finds Miss Cello's body, and it's like the camera's following him from the front down the hallway.
Yes,
and like his just like hysterics and his hand movements. It's to me it's not a spoof, but it's just very slapsticky and horror. It's an odd combination if you think about it.
The guy who turns out to be the final guy. What was his name again?
Chet.
Chet. He is so despicable. Like he cheats on his girlfriend with the principal. He's so mean to the poor janitor guy, and then he thinks the janitor is like killing people, so he just goes and beats him up, without investigating any of this. And he's like the lead guy.
Well, and what's funny is, remember earlier in the movie, he gets mad and bullies the janitor for spying on the girls, but then he gets together and spies himself.
Yes. He looks at that little grate, and then also I love when you were reading the back of the box, because it's like finally he's had enough and he's going to give the teacher a taste of his own medicine. He thinks of it in like the heat of the moment just to save himself. It's not like he's this big heroic guy the way the box paints it out to be. It's just
actually I thought he was an idiot because he shows up to fight him instead of just calling the police.
Yeah,
when he survived. I thought it was odd that the invisible maniac didn't kill him as well. He jumps on Bunny's head and crushes her head, I'm assuming.
She was terrible too.
Oh, no, I wasn't saying that she wasn't a good person. I'm just like, why didn't he leave? Bunny, to me, she wouldn't have been a good final girl, because the whole movie is about how Chet needs to be in love with her. And it's all about, oh, I love Chet. And then her friend giving her the terrible advice of, well, if you love him and you want to marry him, you better put out. I mean, that's her friend giving her that advice.
Yeah, I love the scene after they've had sex. And she's like, Chet, when are you going to ask me to marry you? And he's like, hey, we're in love. Let's not ruin it. I thought that was a good line, actually.
And he was supposed to, and of course, yeah, these people are high school students. But again, they're supposed to be high school students, and she's pushing him to marry her. She's a little soon, isn't it?
Well, I don't think they were actually high school students. I mean, these people were like obviously in their 30s. But the principal character, she's like 20. How did she become principal? She's very smart. She's barely out of high school.
She was gifted. She went through school a lot faster than everybody else, I mean, you wouldn't have known that, because in, her biggest scene when she tries to seduce Dornwinkle, and he turns her down, she pulls out this needle, and of course she thinks obviously that it's drugs or something. She's going to call the cops on him. But my whole thing is, okay, so you think he's shooting up in class and you're fine with it as long as he has sex with you. And she keeps telling him like, oh, I find you so attractive.
I think she finds anyone attractive.
Yes,
that's her only function in this film, is to let people motorboat her.
That's what purpose she serves. I love at the end when, the Chet's beating up the janitor, and somebody, the invisible guy, maniac, grabs his arm, And then Bunny tries to rescue him, and she's like, Chet, help me, he's on me. And he's like, Bunny, get up, there's nobody on top of you. I'm like, you just felt somebody like holding your wrist. I'm like, why? Nobody thinks in this movie. I don't think anybody thinks. I would love to know how Dr. Smith got this job.
I wonder if any thought was put into the movie.
Does anyone think in any of your movies, Nathan?
Yes. Remember, there are many scenes in a lot of movies I pick where there is a lot of thought put into it. Like, hey, when he was getting invisible in this movie, they kept showing educational stuff about the human body and our brain. So there's educational stuff in this movie.
Just ask this scientician.
Yes. I'm going to Bovine University.
I love school as a setting for a slasher movie, even though, like you guys said, I mean, it's pretty light on the slashing, but it's more so feels like a slasher movie because they're all being picked off one by one. But I would say it's much more about him being invisible than actually being about the kills or the slasher kills or anything like that. I mean, like Joseph was saying, like a lot of the slasher kills are the women getting strangled by somebody invisible, which is nothing more than them just like holding their hands up close to their throat and rolling their eyes back in their head.
So why did the main character rebuff the high school principal with the big boobies, considering the whole movie was him trying to spy on women?
Well, remember in the beginning, his mom beat into him that all women are evil.
He's talking about Chet. Isn't he? Or
no, I thought he was talking about
the main character, the villain.
Oh, the Maniac. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I think he didn't because he was really messed up about sex because of his mother.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if he's actually ever had sex. I think he's
probably not.
Probably supposed to be a virgin, maybe.
I'm not sure that much thought went into it, but
yeah, I think you're over.
Are we putting more thought into this than what was there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So
and there's some early '90s homophobia in there as well.
Yeah.
Because there's one scene where one of the girls says, Gordon's cousin is a fag. And I won't say the word, but you know what I'm saying.
We should get this cancel cultured.
Yeah. Hashtag cancel.
Culture cancel.
What are you going to do? Go back in time and kill the director's career?
Yeah, that's my sole purpose. If I have it upon a time machine, is to go back in time and make sure Invisible Maniac is never made.
At least it wasn't as
we covered one of the most homophobic slashers, which was The Last Slumber Party.
I was going to say, yeah.
Or how about Rush Week, which was extremely homophobic, also set in a school.
Have we covered that?
I love school.
Rush Week?
We covered Rush Week. Yeah.
Did we?
It was a Joseph.
It was the 36, I think. Number 36.
Wow. Well, we're 200. That's almost 200 episodes ago.
Yeah.
So
a long time. Yes.
So, okay. Well, some background, because there's some interesting background, isn't there, for this movie, I think.
I have some.
Okay.
But Nathan, you should go first.
Okay, well, here's something I wanted to ask you guys. In the version that you watched of this movie, was there any scenes involving the janitor at his home?
I can't remember.
Not that I remember.
No, not the version I watched.
Okay,
the one I watched was on YouTube.
Okay, you would have known if there was, because I bought this on Amazon. It was only like $3, but totally worth it. But anyway, I bought this on Amazon, and I've seen this movie set up like a lot of times. And suddenly in the movie, there's a scene in the Amazon version where the janitor goes home and has all these weird psychedelic dreams, and it serves absolutely no purpose to the film whatsoever. But it's the first time I'd ever seen these scenes in this movie. But yeah, I was wondering if you guys had seen that. But yeah, it goes on so long too. It's like a 10-minute sequence of the janitor dreaming.
Okay, no, definitely didn't see that.
Yeah, we didn't see that.
I mean, trust me, it doesn't make the movie better.
Oh,
the movie's better at its shorter running time. I think movies like this work much better when they're under 90 minutes.
Well, like a trailer.
Oh, not 2 minutes. 80 minutes I think is a good length. An hour and 20 minutes of invisibility and carnage.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan likes good length.
Yeah, 12 inches.
Eric.
What, a record?
Joseph. But anyway, Melissa Moore plays Bunny. She was also in Hard to Die, another one of my favorites. And she was in Sorority House Massacre 2, another one of my favorites. Let's see. What else do I have here? Oh, I don't have anything else. Okay, that's all I got.
Wow, it's your movie, and that's all you got?
Oh, Nathan.
Well, hey, I was shocked by all that extra footage, and I watched all of that for you guys. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for falling on that sword.
Thank you.
So, who would like to go next?
I'll go. The film was released on Republic Pictures home video in the States in 1990 and by Medusa Video the same year across Europe. As far as I'm aware, it's not been released on DVD or Blu-ray. I could be wrong. Anyone know if it's been released past VHS?
I don't know, but I hope that it has.
Yeah. I mean, if it has, it's probably like DVD-R or something, like a VHS transfer. So I guess hold on to those tapes if you have them. I've seen some of them sell for a pretty penny on like eBay. Justin, you mentioned a cinema release. I don't have any evidence for being released over here. Maybe did it get released over there?
Well, I shall. I do have a movie review from the Los Angeles Times, so I think it must have got some kind of cinema release.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just been Los Angeles. Who knows? Let's see what else. Shannon Wilsey was better known as Savannah. She played. Was it Becky? Is that her name? The Four Food Groups girl.
Vicky. Sorry.
Vicky. She was a popular porn star in the early to mid 90s. She sadly took her own life. That's terrible. Production credits. And this is amusing. Some of the production credits include Invisible Research by Peter Berg. Not that Peter Berg, as far as I know.
Nathan did Invisible Research as well.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah. By Peter Berg and Stephen Bing. And it also Invisible Consultants, doctors Brad Wyman, PhD, and Benjamin Schaefer. Is there actual invisible doctor? Is there doctors who are studying invisibility and they actually consulted, or is this a joke? I don't know, but I found that amusing. And that's pretty much all the background I have.
Okay.
I have one more.
Oh.
The newscaster was also in Sorority House Massacre Part 2. She played Janie. Her boyfriend was cheating on her.
Oh, thank you. Well, Erik, how about you?
Okay, well, it's directed by Adam Rifkin, and I thought that name rings a bell. He's gone on to big things. He directed Detroit Rock City, The Chase. That's the Charlie Sheen and Christy Swanson's movie. He did a segment in the horror anthology Chillerama, and he also wrote Small Soldiers, which I think is a really underrated Joe Dante movie from 1998. I thought it was a great film. So he's had a real career afterwards, and you can kind of see he's got skills, watching Invisible Maniac. I didn't think I'd be saying that when we first picked this film. Stephanie Blake, who plays Mrs. Cello, she had small roles in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Sure Thing, and Over the Top before this film. And in 1991, she was in the Susie Sue biopic, Whore, directed by Ken Russell.
Oh, so funny. So funny.
Starring Teresa Russell as Toya.
How rude.
Okay, well, I've got. We talked about whether or not this got a cinema release, because I used to own the VHS of this, because it's one of the ones I must have picked up when I was in the States back in, I don't know, sort of 1999 or 2001, sort of kind of times when I was like poking around New York, and it may have been one of the ones where I picked up from that pawn shop. You remember that story with the one in Christopher Street where they had all the old crappy old horror VHS in the window, and it was a front for a porno store. So I kind of bought their shop front. But I found when I was looking for background on this, there was a review in the Los Angeles Times on the August the 10th, 1990. And as you can imagine, it was a rave, and it was very short. So I'll read it. Kevin Thomas, Times staff writer. The strapline was "Eyeful of Wretched Excess," and it says, "The Invisible Maniac, the current Friday and Saturday midnight show at the Ritz on Hollywood Boulevard, is not worth seeing. You should pardon the expression. It's a trite tale about an escaped mad scientist, Noel Peters, a capable actor, who lands a summer school job teaching physics to 5 girls and 3 boys who taunt him constantly. The scientist, seriously disturbed since childhood, has been struggling for years to develop a serum to make himself invisible. When he finally succeeds, wholesale slaughter is a predictable result. Along the way, writer-director Riff Coogan, which was it Riff Coogan? Who it wasn't Adam Rifkin, wasn't it? Who's Riff Coogan? Maybe he's got it wrong.
It was an alias.
It was it's the alias, was it? Okay. Requires that his youthful actresses bare their bosoms about every 5 minutes, and that goes to the sex-starved principle as well. The morbid puritanical effect, axiomatic in schlock. Wow, what does axiomatic mean? Anyone know?
Axiomatic means unquestionably.
Okay. Well, see, so unlike this movie, we are educational. So, the morbid puritanical effect, axiomatic in schlock, exploitation fare is that sex represented by all that bared flesh just had to trigger a wretched excess of violence. Although it takes a while to build momentum, The Invisible Maniac, rated R, has considerable technical finesse. But what trash like this really needs to play well is a low-down, raunchy sense of humour. It's too slick not to seem sick. So there you go, little rave there.
Wow.
But the flip side of that, I found another review, which I won't read the whole thing, but it is Joe Bob Briggs reviewed it in the Orlando Sentinel in August 24th, 1990. So again, it presumably that means that the film did get some kind of cinema release around.
Interesting.
And just a couple of bits from me. It says, Invisible Maniac is the finest movie about somebody becoming invisible since The Invisible Kid 2 years ago, which, come to think of it, wasn't a great movie. Today it's practically invisible. And he says, The Invisible Maniac is a sort of Claude Rains meets the Nutty Professor, with a nerdy psycho physics professor giving himself invisible serum injections so he can sneak up on blonde cheerleaders and rip their blouses off, which is pretty much all it is. So maybe now that I think of it, it's more like Claude Rains meets Jason. I hope you notice that in every great slasher film, it's always Mama's fault. And he ends up by saying 39 breasts, 11 dead bodies, cheerleader crunching, letter opener stabbing, hero sandwich face stuffing, rip away bras, tropical aquarium drowning, 2 shower scenes, excellent plunge off an 8-story building, fire hose foo, and head blown off with a shotgun foo. So, so Joe Bob says, check it out. So there was that. The only other bits I was going to mention is I looked up about Savannah, who was obviously you mentioned about that she sadly passed away. She shot herself a couple of years after this, and I think she'd done kind of porn before this movie, but she really kind of got going in her porn career kind of after this. But I was reading on IMDb, not IMDb, so Wikipedia, which again is probably as reliable sometimes as IMDb, is that she was so upset by the response to Invisible Maniac when she saw it with an audience. So again, sort of thinking must have got some kind of cinema release, that she couldn't understand. She thought people were laughing at her, not with her, if that makes sense, with her performance. And so she was so dispirited that she decided to forget her film career.
I thought she was okay. I didn't think she was bad.
No, I thought she was fine. I mean, considering it wasn't exactly RADA around her, was it? It wasn't the Royal Shakespeare Company she was appearing with. But she went on to say she was also in Sorority House Massacre 2 and also Camp Fear the following year. Sort of a small appearance in that. But so it was a sad story. So you sound like it was, one of there's many, unfortunately, pretty young things littered in the kind of the porn careers that have gone horribly wrong. But of course, there's lots of porn actors and actresses who had very happy lives and don't succumb to drugs and various other malaises. But unfortunately, she wasn't one of them. So the only thing I was going to mention was that the film was put out by Republic Pictures Corporation, which was it had been an American motion picture production company, which is an operation in Hollywood from 1935 to 1967, which was going to specialize in Western serials and B movies, like kind of mystery and action movies from around that time. And I think it went through various kind of iterations, and by the time it got around to the early 90s, it was pumping out movies like The Invisible Maniac and sort of other ones. So I think the only other thing I was going to mention was you were saying about the cast being about 30 in this. I think is it Melissa Moore or Mandy Moore Melissa Moore, wasn't it? Melissa, she was 27 when she made this, so she's quite an old high school girl. But I think Savannah was only about 22 or 23 when she did that, so a little bit closer to the correct age. So, I think that's all I've got, Invisible Maniac. So
that's amazing.
Amazing.
Just like the movie.
Well, thank you. So, what did our dear audience think about this?
Okay, out of a flimsy 24 votes, sorry, Nathan, you'll be pleased to know that 96% did like Invisible Maniac.
Nice.
While the other 4% did not. Let's see. Our listener of the week is Christian Barker, and he wrote... I'm waiting on Erik to make a joke about his last name.
Oh, woof woof.
Yeah, because you did one joke one time where someone's last name was Barker, and that was your...
Clive Barker. It was for help.
Yeah. Anyway, Christian Barker writes, this film is so bad. Decent boobage, but that's it. Can I ask why so much podcast garbage time slashes recently? I'm still waiting for Alone in the Dark from 1982, Mother's Day from 1980, and Fade to Black from 1980. Great show, though. Let's see. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, YouTube, and anywhere you catch your pods. Heck, you can just Google us. We're everywhere. Our email address is info or feedback at thehysteriacontinues.net. And guys, would you say that Alone in the Dark, Fade to Black, and Mother's Day are in the show's not too distant future?
I would imagine so. Yeah.
I mean, not from me, but from you guys, maybe.
Yeah, they're
Too
not
classy
bad
for you.
enough. Yeah, too classy.
I mean, no, but I would pick something like Mother's Day. But the other movies are just a little too classy for me. I love them, but just too classy for me to like pick them.
Yeah,
I don't know if I would call Alone in the Dark classy.
It's got Donald Pleasance in it. He exudes class.
Yeah, but he was also in Fatal Frames.
Yeah.
Yes.
Partly.
Excuse me, that's got the classiest woman of all in it. Hey, where's Stefania? Where is she?
I'm not doing this today.
I think she's still making Fatal Frames. The film is
it's still going on.
So bloody long. But okay. Well, I think talking of invisible things and some time for some invisible laughs.
It's my joke of the week. It's so great and fantastic.
I am so surprised that no one twigged that Kevin Smith was in fact the notorious escaped mental patient Kevin Dornwinkle. You'd think they'd see right through it.
It's very appropriate for the show.
Very, very clever.
I think I hear a car in the background, Justin.
Justin was leaving.
Yeah, that was a joke. That was a laugh getting in and driving away.
Laughs can't drive cars. It's just so ridiculous, Justin.
One more thing I was going to mention about Invisible Maniac before we move on. His name was Kevin Smith, like the director Kevin Smith. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, his name was really Dornwinkle, but I guess he thought Dornwinkle would be too obvious when he applied at the school, so he decided to go with just Smith.
Yeah.
One other thing, did we mention that the director also made Psycho Cop Returns?
Oh,
no,
yes.
I don't think we did. Plus, the guy that played Gordon in this Invisible Maniac is in Psycho Cop Returns. He's one of the businessmen.
See, I don't think I've ever seen Psycho Cop Returns, because wasn't it a bit of a lost movie for a while, wasn't it? Well, not a loss, but it was...
Well, the uncut version.
But the uncut version was.
It's hard to find, or it just doesn't exist, or I don't know, something like that.
Actually, no, I have the uncut version. It's out there. And
it is?
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely worth watching. I mean, it's kind of corny with the killer, having his crazy one-liners, but it's Psycho Cop and Psycho Cop 2 are definitely slasher movies. There's no doubt about it.
And they're definitely ones you'll probably pick at some point.
Oh, of course. The only problem is I do prefer 2 to 1, so I've been wanting to cover part 2, but I've got to pick part 1 first.
Okay. All right.
See, we have lots of franchises to pick through.
So much more to look forward to.
We also haven't covered Sleepaway Camp 3 yet.
Yes.
Thankfully.
And Sleepaway Camp 4.
Oh.
Oh, God. I've
never seen it. Is it as bad as they say?
I'm picking it, Joseph.
Alan. That's all I'm going to say, Alan.
You have to pick part 3 first, though, don't you, Nathan? I think we can't skip
part
ahead.
Part 3 is my favorite one in the series.
Okay.
So
Really?
Oh yeah, I love part 3. It's just so
Wow.
stupid. And
I think that's my least favorite.
Yeah, same with me.
more than part 4. That'd be surprising.
Well,
to
in
me.
the original series, I don't think part 4 is a real film. Part 4 is a sequel to the first film.
It's not a real film.
It's not a real film. I don't care.
Okay, well,
But
I
yeah,
guess
I love part 3.
I was going to say we haven't got any feedback this time, have we? I don't think, or do we?
No.
No.
Simon Logan said, I never do that. No. So I just did it for Simon Logan.
And if Simon Logan's listening, he did send me something through the email, and it's just reminded me now you've mentioned his name, so I will get back to him. Although he'll probably hear this after I've got back to him, hopefully. So
it's all very complicated.
It's all very complicated. It's a bit like time crimes.
Why is it? Yeah. Why is it so complicated?
I don't know.
Crazy.
Well, it's only because we're recording this 2 weeks ahead of it going out, aren't we? Ish.
I don't think anyone needs to know the physics of how our show works.
But it's
because we don't even understand.
No, we don't understand it. No, it is like some weird
physics.
Yeah, it is like Time Crimes or one of those movies, isn't it?
And now a word from our friends.
Devil Times 5 is the fast-paced podcast in which 3 comedians and 2 horror experts dissect a different theme, franchise or subgenre each month before playing around with horror's hardest quiz. Scary noises. So, for hot takes and piss takes, listen to Devil Times 5, the British horror podcast that knows how to have fun.
Hey everybody, I'm Jay Bullington.
And I'm Keith Carcino, and we want to know,
have you seen this one? Have You Seen This One, aka Histo, is a podcast where 2 friends invite each other to watch movies the other one has never seen before. Sometimes it's a real movie treasure, and sometimes
it's pure cinema torture.
Boy, is it ever. Which reminds me, Keith, I'm still not done paying you back for Freddy Got Fingered. Oh, man.
So anyway, you may be asking yourself, what credentials or experience do these people have?
And the answer is 0. Zilch. Zip.
Yeah, we actually have no credibility whatsoever, and there's no reason we should be doing a show about movies.
No, but we're doing it anyway. Besides, doesn't everybody have a podcast nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's mandatory now.
Right? Yeah, so please join our movie party. You can find us on iTunes.
Or Stitcher.
Or Overcast.
Or pretty much wherever you catch your pods.
Yep, and there's a new episode every 2 weeks. So we really hope you listen in because we really do want to know. Have you seen this one?
So let's see. It's a little bit of a shorter show, this one, perhaps. But small things come in good packages, as apparently one of Eric's dates once said.
Good things come in small packages is what you need to say.
Oh, did I? What did I say? Slime bowls in a...
small things come in good packages, I think is what you said.
So, I saw that there is that slime sorority babes and slime bowl Bolorama. Part 2's coming out, isn't it?
Oh, finally.
Right.
You got it right.
Just in time for the sequel.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, Nathan, is anything left to say about Invisible Maniac?
I think that's all we've got to say.
Okay. I think it is. Am I right in thinking it's my turn next time?
Yeah, it's y'all's turn.
Well, we're going to take it classy next time. Well, I say classy. We're off to Broadway for The Fan, 1981. Lauren Bacall and Michael Biehn as a psychotic fan of Lauren Bacall, which is kind of campus tits and quite a complicated little movie. And I do have some fantastic little background, sort of bitchy background stuff on that one. So, which I don't think actually, I'm not sure if that was in the movie, on the Blu-ray. So might be a little bit exclusive. I dug up some celebrity dirt on that one. So if you're a fan of celebrity dirt, and
I love celebrity dirt.
Well, and also sort of slightly pretending to be classy / movies from 1981, of course, the hallowed year, 1981, then join us next time on the Hysteria Continues. But we will be playing out with, what is your choice, Nathan?
I want to play out with Invisible Touch by Genesis.
Oh.
Genesis! Phil Collins!
Have you guys ever heard that song?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Justin's not.
Sound like Justin. Yeah.
Well, I must admit, I'm not. Phil Collins isn't the most popular person in our house.
I love when they lampoon him on South Park.
Did he do something that's bad? Should I pick somebody else? Did he do something like terrible?
He once
He wrote music.
Yeah. No, it was kind of I think it was because he once said that he would leave Britain if a certain political party got in, and he never left, sadly. So, but anyway,
People
I think
say that in America all the time.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? But no, it's your choice, Nathan. If you want to play out of that crap, then you do it.
Well, as much as I've had to hear about Susie, I think I deserve it.
Well, there's no comparison.
Shade.
Shade.
No, because I'll actually listen to Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
Talking of shade, did you
some real rhubarb realness?
I know, but
oh my goodness!
Did you hear, talking of shade, about the India Ferrar and Alexis Mateo? What really happened?
No.
Well, I didn't hear what really happened, but I know it's kind of she said kind of thing.
Well,
do we know for real what happened?
Yeah, because I saw an interview of India Ferrar who said, and of course, if you don't know what we're talking about, it's RuPaul's All Stars, and India Ferrar.
And I will see you guys next time.
Very quickly, India Ferrar said that Alexis Mateo had been plotting against another of the drag queens, and told her and so it kind of threw everything up in the air, and everyone thought Alexis Mateo was this mega bitch. But India Ferrar later said that Mayhem Miller and Alexis Mateo come up to her after they'd all voted and said, "Did you vote for this person?" Which isn't the same as plotting to get them evicted, is it? So, anyway,
the drama continues on Hysteria continues. So we're playing out with some bald old man who didn't leave Britain. No, I said we were playing out with Genesis, not Susie.
Nathan can't feel it coming in the air tonight.
Hold on.
So anyway, we've got to go off and record Predator 2 for the Patreon. So again, if you want to hear that, then hop over to Patreon and support the show for as little as $1 a month or a couple of dollars a month, whatever it is. And thank you to everyone who already does, and for everyone who listens to the show. So we could do it without you, but we'd rather we had someone listening. So,
yeah, 2 shows about invisibility, and this was actually a coincidence.
It was, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, okay, right, we'll say goodbye to the good people.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye was invisible.
What was invisible?
His bye.
Bye.
Bye.